Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Angry Cast and Fallout Shelter 2023. How y'all doing? I apologize for doing this as a voiceover, but my schedule got away from me this week, and I don't think I'm going to have time to do live gaming and commentary, which is great because what I want to talk about requires a little more concentration from my part, which in the car that's going to be hard, but while I'm trying to react to what's going on screen, it might be harder. So I'm going to put all this information into the description so you don't have to cobble it down or whatever else. A couple of friends of mine, theater friends, have put together a podcast on my friend's channel. It goes under the name of Brickintyre, which is the channel name. The guy does Lego and toy review stuff for adult stuff. Not adult stuff like adult toys. No, God, no. But as an adult who enjoys Legos and building and the figurines and action figures and stuff like that from our childhood for things that we do. And he also runs this podcast with another friend, his best friend, another friend that I've done theater with, and it's called Ralph World. Don't ask me, I don't know why. I'm sure there's a funny joke about it, but it's basically a look at something that existed 30, 40 years ago that still exists today, either in the same or another format. And it's the perception of it from the Gen X perspective and the Gen Z perspective. Now, there's only 2 episodes out at the time of this recording. They usually post it up on Spotify on Fridays, and then YouTube is the video. And it's just the 2 of them on a couch in his house talking about stuff. And the first episode might have suffered from some technical difficulties, still getting their feet underneath them, but I highly recommend, just toughing it out for those things and just listening and enjoying them talking about these things. And then the second episode is where they really hit the ground running. In fact, there's some hilarious moments. I'm just going to say the 33-minute mark is just, are we not doing phrasing anymore? And I actually sent that to him in a message, and he's like, dude, I'm at work. You sent that to me. And I was like, I know, but I was at work listening to it, and I tried not to laugh. So I know that means nothing to you, but just like I said, it's an hour long. You can spare an hour to listen in the background on the drive home, whatever. Go check it out. It's Brickintyre, Brick, I-N-T-Y-E-R, or R-E, sorry. Look it up. Like I said, all this stuff's going to be in the description. You can go find it there. But the first episode that they did, which was really kind of touched on, I had both feet on the fence on this one. Batmania, I guess you would call it, in that The Flash is coming out and Michael Keaton is reprising his role as Batman, Bruce Wayne. And I grew up with, of course, in the shadows in the background, Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin, and Cesar Romero as the Joker. But then also that childhood watching those reruns on TV from the 60s, and then having the Tim Burton 1989 movie with Michael Keaton as Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Jack Nicholson as the Joker, also known as Jack Napier, totally retconning the entire origin story of the Joker and how Batman's origin story happened as well. Which, again, it's, take it for what it is. Don't gatekeep the thing, I guess. I don't know. But how do you, but from their perspective is, Max, Gen X like me, we grew up in a different, we have we're 2 sides of the same Gen X coin, in terms of our growing up and what our experiences were like growing up. But Brittany, is a dude. Brittany, he's Gen Z, firmly in Gen Z. He's just in his not getting into his 20s, and he, knows mainly he hadn't actually seen it. He knows mainly the Christian Bale, the Nolan Batman, and Heath Ledger as the Joker. So there's definitely a gap in terms of experiencing those. But that's the first episode, and like I said, the technical difficulties aside, the discussion was top notch. The second one is what I really wanted to talk about, because I really want to add to the conversation from my own point of view. I'd love to be a part. Dude, if you happen to be watching this, And I'm not going to ask you. Come on, ask you. But if you happen to be watching this and you ever thought, is there a place that you can add in a third voice for whatever reason, or switch somebody out? It's, whatever. If you need something, call. Get a hold of me. I'll do it. I swear to God, I will love doing it. But I'm not going to ask him because that's his show. That's his deal. They have set it up for those two opposing viewpoints across the decades, and I'm not going to infringe on that. I'm not going to horn in on their stuff. We're roughly in this kind of the same boat as far as our experience, our exposure on YouTube. He's been doing a hell of a lot less. I've been doing it a hell of a lot longer. He's gotten there faster. Let's put it that way. So the second episode, and again, this is where I completely lost my shit. They're talking about movies and the movie-going experience from the Gen X point of view and the Gen Z point of view, specifically around also voice actors. And I was like, yes, thank you, God. Thank you for touching on this. Specifically to the point that Super Mario Brothers came out. And I guess it did fairly well at the box office. Now, I knew Super Mario Brothers from 1993 with John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, and what a hot, steaming pile of mess that was with Dennis Hopper. But also, I can see the animation is phenomenal. Some of the stuff is great. Jack Black as Bowser. Yeah, great, awesome. But then you've got Chris Pratt and Charlie Day, and none of that makes any sense to me. And there's already an established voice to Mario, and why are we doing that? And here's the thing. Voice actors are unsung heroes. Voice actors do not get the accolades and the rewards and everything that they deserve. If you go back as far as D. Bradley Baker, I mean, my gosh, everybody knows D. Bradley Baker. I mean, Clone Troopers and Bad Batch and all that stuff. Yeah, that guy, as well as Kevin Conroy as Batman from the animated series. He's always going to be Batman to me in a sense because he was the Batman animated voice. He was awesome. But also Gray Delisle and I can't pronounce her last name. Mark Hamill, he's more well known now for his voice acting than he is for being oh God, I can't remember. No, Luke Skywalker. He's, for being Luke Skywalker, he's fairly well known now as being the voice of the Joker from the animated Batman series. But also, there's a ton of others. I can't even think of their names right now. But they don't get the accolades and the respect that they should get, and how much work it actually takes for a voice actor to live in that world and do that work. It's thankless. You're anonymous for, people don't know who you are. Maurice LaMarche, I mean, all these people, the Ren and Stimpy guy, all that, Tom Kenny, all those guys, the Animaniacs. I remember, those names come back. Mel Blanc, I mean, my gosh, Mel Blanc, one of the most famous voice actors ever from Bugs Bunny. But all of that work and doing video games, Nolan North, all these people, they don't get the accolade, they don't get the respect they deserve. And when you replace them with a big name for the sake of adding in a big name to the billing in order to generate sales and box office dollars, when that's not necessary. It's not necessary. And like I said, I could go down around the rabbit hole for an hour on that, and I won't. But also, the movie-going experience. Now, this is something near and dear to me because I was a child of the movie theater, the cinema. That was my big thing. I mean, to this day, I still have yet to watch the movie that I was told to watch 30 years ago, Cinema Paradiso. But I have such a reverence for, that genre, or not that genre, but that medium. I remember my first movie I went and saw in the theater was The Lord of the Rings, 1978 Lord of the Rings, the Ralph Bakshi, the animated one, the horrible one. That was, still, I explained half of it to my parents, even though I was 3 or 4 when I saw it. And Star Wars, and A New Hope. Before it was Star Wars, and they brought it out right before Empire Strikes Back as a re-release with A New Hope in front of it. That was my experience, first, big, huge blockbuster movie experience. And there's something about being in a movie theater like that is definitely, you'll never forget it. But we've gotten so far away from that, either through just pricing everybody out, or the pandemic, or just the quality, or just the advances in technology. And that's kind of where I want to go at with this. So I grew up with the small movie theater chains, not the big, huge AMC, Cinemark, Lowe's, all that stuff like we know today. You go to the movie theater, they had maybe 2-3 screens. They had the counter out front with the popcorn window, and you get your drink, and it was like, not that much to go get food. And then the movie theater ticket was just like maybe $5. And then there was just this nice, the decor was very old, glamorous, like you needed to be wearing a tuxedo to go into there. And then below there was like a lounge, and there was like the couches and all that stuff, and the bathrooms. And there was such a, the movie theater itself was a luxury. It wasn't just, it wasn't something that was sterile or very like liminal. It was there was a very definite style to it, and it was great. And just sitting there and having a bucket of popcorn, and the trailers, and just the trailers, just a few trailers, and the movie itself, and on the big screen with the surround sound and everything. And I remember going to see Raiders of the Lost Ark and having the projection burn out mid film, like it melted. It just melted, and they had to start over from a different reel. And that's indelible in my memory, that happening. But then we grew up a little bit more and into the 80s, and you got to like the bigger cineplexes where there was like 10, 12 theaters, and you had the blockbusters that kept happening, and then the smaller movie theaters, and then like the smaller chains that really didn't, they supported the art house kind of films. But then when this big, in the 90s and the 2000s, we kind of went towards this big, huge, the Lowe's experience, and that's when prices started exploding. And then the economy after 9/11, and then going to the theater, and then the concessions. And we all know that movie theaters don't make their money off of the theater, the films themselves. They make them off the concessions. And the studios hold such a huge price tag over the leasing or the renting or whatever of the film. And as we go towards fully digital, I don't see how they can continue to do that. Because if you think about it, the price it would cost to ship reels of film, the big canisters of film, and the cost of protecting all that, and everything else, and getting them back and everything. Yeah, I could see where that could increase a cost to the theater owners for showing it. But we're at the stage now where you can put the movie itself on a USB drive, or you can have it on a share that you can go get to online. And it just really isn't the cost associated like it used to be, so I don't know where that cost is going. Maybe it's a top-down approach. I don't know. I don't want to get into a discussion. Right now in the middle of a writer's strike, I really don't want to get into a discussion about who is getting the money. The movie maker, the studio, the screenwriter, the actors, and sometimes it's a lot of the. I mean, it really is, and we're getting, wrapped around the axle on that. But let's start out like small. I want us to be back into that that movie going experience, but we can't be because the prices are so damn expensive. I went this and to put you in a position of this, where I grew up, there was a Carmike theater. And I remember seeing Back to the Future in it in 1985, and my brother going to see Lethal Weapon, and I saw Secret of My Success. And then I remember going to see a bunch of movies there when I was a teenager and in high school and then graduating. And then more recently, probably within the last 10 years, I went back. I took Megan and Bailey, and we saw Inside Out. So that's going to date that's going to put you in a date for when this happened. But we went to see Inside Out, and it was 3 tickets. The tickets alone cost $30. Okay, and that's not to mention any of the concessions we might have gotten. So just the movie alone was $30, and that's like $12 per adult and $8 for a child. And that's ridiculous. And as the joke will hold, when you watch Ralph World, it was disgusting, because the seats and the floor and everything are just I don't understand why is that not being taken care of, and the quality, like, they haven't updated that theater. It looked the same as it did in the 1990s when I used to go there, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And you can go down to down near towards Pittsburgh, where they had the Lowe's Theater, which was like the big, huge, omniplex of movie theaters and everything, and it was really phenomenal. But man, that the experience and the spending and the cost of everything, and you go and you sit down and watch a movie, and it's like there's commercials. I mean, why is that not deferring the cost of the movie at this point, where you sit down for a half an hour before the movie starts, and there's maybe a handful of trailers, like 3 or 4 trailers, and then there's 10 commercials and an advertisement for the movie theater itself, or the movie chain, the theater chain itself. And why, those 6 or 7 commercials, why are they not covering the cost of this? And the one that's so outdated, it's 2023, and we're still seeing the same, tickets.com or whatever it is, where it's like they're outside the premiere of the X-Men movie, and the guy that's, dressed as Wolverine, and he's got the girl dressed as Mystique next to him, and the one guy dressed as Beast, he's like sniffing his armpit. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. I know you've seen it before. It's just, that's kind of bad, that's kind of horrible. That's still like in front of movies today, and it's 20 years old now, because that's when X-Men came out, was like in 2000. So why are we still seeing this stuff, and why is that still part of the experience? But I want to get rid of all that. I want to go back to just saying, there's a couple of movie trailers and then the movie starts, but we can't do that, of course, because we have to pay the bills. But where is that money going? I mean, you can't. I know what, listen, here's the thing. All right, I've worked in food service. I've worked in the food industry. I know what it costs to have bag-in-a-box. I know what the individual cost on a drink is from a canister, the CO2 canister with the Wonder Gun, all that. I know what that costs. It is nothing. It is pennies on the dollar. And they're charging as much as they are for sodas. Things that, the things that will kill you eventually. And the popcorn, oh my God, it's going to kill you. The clogging of the arteries. I'm not saying serve carrot sticks and celery, but at least, make the food better if you're going to charge as much as you do. Because it costs just as much to get to get the food than it is to get the tickets. And then on top of everything else, like, there was a great movie theater, an 18 theater, screen on the plex near my house, and it was great because it was like $5 a person. I went, the pandemic hit, and when the pandemic kind of like ended, I went and saw the last, No Time to Die, and it was $5. It cost me $5. We kind of lied a little bit on Bailey's age when she turned 13, because it was like under 12. It was like $4 or half the price or whatever, $6 and $4. So we kind of like, we kind of fudged her age for another year, but it was too, yeah, definitely can tell she's not 12. So we couldn't do that. But now that's gone. It's no longer there anymore. I mean, I think they used to have a trampoline or whatever, a rock wall, all that stuff. I don't know if that's still there. It's all gone. And then down the road a bit was another Lowe's that I saw Pearl Harbor in. So you talked about how old that place was, and it just completely disintegrated into, like, I think, flea market space. And that was a product of, the economy collapsing after 9/11, and nobody really going to the movie theaters because of everything. And I get it. Like, the pandemic was another reason why things all kind of went downhill in that sense, because with the pandemic, you couldn't go to the movie theater. But that shifted everything to home. And as Ralph World will sit there and tell you, they tried to go see like Black Adam a week after it opened, and they couldn't, and the theater said nobody came to see it, so they pulled it. And 3 weeks later after that, it was on streaming, HBO Max, and that's where I watched it. And what is that? Like, I understand the pandemic happened, and I was like, oh, streaming movies. And I know people who work in the theater business. I know people who work in the movie theaters, and I know it's rough. I know that was a horrible time for them. I know everything was bad and horrible. But it's like, and I get that movies have to come out in the theater. We have to get back out there. We have to. But what are you giving us? Don't tell us we have to go to the movie theater if the experience sucks. Don't tell us that you're only going to get to see this in the theater. We have to get back out there when the product that you're putting out just literally sucks. It's not great. It's bad. Fix the problem at the root. Make it something worthwhile. Make it something that's we would want to go see. And again, what is that experience supposed to be like? Again, as a child, I loved going the decor, the atmosphere, everything. Going with my friends. My friends and all, we all went to see like Alive in 1992, and it was like a big group thing. We all went and saw Home Alone as a group. But you just don't do that anymore. And maybe it's because we're like socially inept or socially anxious about things. But we can sure as hell get a projector and project a movie on the sides of houses to, with a barbecue and beers and all that, and have. And I know there are places like the Alamo Draft House, and I think there's one near in Pittsburgh in Lawrenceville that I've gone to see. I went to see Die Hard. So maybe that's it. Maybe the big, and that's part of the problem is that the technology that exists today. If you don't want to pay the money for the movie, you can see TVs 55 inches or 70 inches and get the same experience with surround sound. The technology has put us in the theater at home. And we don't have to go out. We don't have to leave. We don't have to get a babysitter. We don't have to get the dog sitter. We don't have to worry about the dog chewing everything while we're gone. There could be fireworks, so we don't have to worry about the dog. All that kind of stuff. It's all, it's all home now. It's all there. So what exactly is that experience meant to be like in the movie theater if we can do it all at home? And that, to me, is the big question. That's where we need to fix it. We need to get that experience to be something that's worth paying the money for. And I don't think it's there. I don't think it's there. I would love to see the ability. And Ralph World got it right. We're horrible people. We're horrible people where we sit in the movie theater and we talk. Now, I've been that guy. I went and saw Godzilla, and I made a couple comments, like watching the movie, and somebody behind me kicked my chair and made a comment back to me and said, and when at the end of the movie, and I stood up, and it was some 15-year-old kid, he kind of hightailed it out of there. He's like, okay, So it's like, yeah, you were all big and bad in the dark, but when the lights came on, you sure as hell ran quick. So yeah, we're horrible people. People still don't. I still see people with their cell phones. Like my phone is always on vibrate. I don't feel the need to turn my phone off in a movie theater. I put it on airplane mode. I'm not going to be bothered if it's something important. You know where I was going to be. You know I'm going to be out of pocket for a while. Deal with it or figure it out, or wait till I get back. But I don't need to turn off my phone. I just put it on. But most people don't. I'm in there watching a film, and I'm totally immersed in the film. And I expect people to react to films. I expect people to I've fist pumped the air a couple of times in movies in the past 10 years. I've, laughed, I've cried, I've done all that stuff. My God, it's a sad story, but, seeing Rise of Skywalker in the movie theater with my child, after losing my father, and seeing Han Solo come back on screen as a ghost or as a force projection, and I teared up a bit. I'm tearing up now. So react, yeah, sure. But when I'm sitting there and I'm immersed in a film and I just see the glow of somebody's cell phone popping up because that's just bright and it's shining in my eyes, that's rude. And don't correct. I can't understand these people that go to movie theaters with and they leave. They make trips in and out, because that breaks my concentration as well. People leaving a film to go to the bathroom. Go before. If your bladder's that small, maybe you shouldn't go out like that. You know, I know we should all do these things, but man, I mean, that kind of suck. And, you know, do what you want. But it's like, it does break your concentration, your suspension of disbelief, and your immersion in the process when you see someone get up and walk past you or whatever down in front of you while you're watching a movie. But again, are the movies really worth it? Are the movies really worth it? I haven't really seen a movie that is that big a deal for me to go to the movie theater. And one of the things we had growing up were these big, huge moments. Like, I remember going to see Independence Day, and that was like a popcorn cheese ball flick. Cool, yeah, cool. But there really hasn't been anything since then that has really caught and grabbed the attention of all that. Not Transformers, no. And maybe you can say the Avengers. Yeah, the Avengers kind of like were that. The Infinity, the Endgame and all that stuff. But there really hasn't... I mean, we CGI just isn't what it used to be. Like, Jurassic Park was the biggest, hugest thing we'd ever seen. Those brontosauruses coming out, or which I think we found out that those don't really exist. But anyways... The seeing the Brontosaurus come out and John Williams' music, and we were all like, oh my god, in 1993. But what has happened since then that has been so great as far as a movie theater? Jurassic Park doesn't really, in 30 years, hasn't really struck the same chord. And I remember at the turn of the century when Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow came out, that was going to be the next big thing. That was going to be the whole virtual, all full green screen. Actors on a green screen, and it just didn't do it. It sucked, and it didn't go that way. And Sin City was probably a better representation of what they were trying to do than Sky Captain was. But the concepts of a movie, everything everywhere, everything everywhere all at once. That was probably the last thing that I thought in the movie theater would have been a great thing to see, and great concept and all that, and just that entire idea. But we just haven't seen it. So, all right, I'm going to get done because this has been long enough. But yeah, tell me what you think in the description or in the comments. I'll put everything about Ralph World, everything else in the description, and we can talk more about it. But that's basically it. That's my feelings. What I would have contributed, a half an hour of my thoughts into an hour-long podcast, that would have never worked. So again, that's why I'm not going to horn in on their parade. But I'm here if you guys want me. All right, thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.